So, welcome everybody to the Property Podcast. This week we've got our guest John Sol, who is a successful property entrepreneur. He has multiple units, which he uses creative strategies to basically increase cash flow monthly. So, John, I mean, we've had this podcast planned for a long time. It's probably been a month or more now, and
Probably.
it's just both of our schedules have been so hectic. It's quite hard. It's hard to get enough time to just sit down and talk to somebody for a little while. It seems crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get started, basically what I want to find out is how are people making money in property? Maybe what your first deal was, and how that kind of came about.
Okay, so first of all, I'll introduce myself officially. So my name's John Solitro. I'm from Bedfordshire. I'm 36 years old. I'm Anglo-Italian, so my parents are both Italian, but I'm obviously was born in the UK, and I've got a missus and two boys.
Nice.
In terms of my property journey, really, like I say, I've got a buy-to-let portfolio in Hull, and that consists of 5 freehold blocks, which consists of 20 units in total. I've just recently bought a limited company, so I've got a buy-to-let in County Durham, which I bought for 5k. Can talk about that another day,
Wow.
maybe, if you want me
Yeah.
back. I've got a freehold in Bedfordshire, which is jointly owned with family, and 4 rent-to-SAs in Bedfordshire. Currently launched my own letting agency. So initially I was outsourcing to letting agents. When I started to get quite big and it was just becoming a bit of a nightmare. But I just struggled with the letting agents really, because they sort of see it slightly different. So don't have any sort of insight of budget, how to run a property business. So I sort of just took that back, set my own agency up, and I'm a compliant deal packager. So I've got my own business, and also I angel invest, and that's personally and also with my SAS pension, and I support people looking to buy deals from me through my deal sourcing business.
That's amazing. Wow. How long have you been doing this?
So I initially started in property when I was 19. So that was the first time that I bought a property, and I've been sort of officially in it sort of 2 and a bit years now. So I left my job and went into it full time.
What did you do for a living before that?
So I worked in sales mainly. So I was a salesman, and I was sort of working on like government contracts, supporting young people going into apprenticeships, long-term unemployed. I've done a bit of recruitment, and really when I left school, I was a barber. So I did that by trade for probably about 4 or 5 years, and then went into recruitment and sales roles.
That's really good. I think sales definitely helps in all aspects of property, isn't it? Because they say property is a people business rather than an actual property business. It's all about kind of who you know, and also not winning people over, but I suppose it is. It's all about conversations that you're going to be having with people. And I think obviously the more that you move up that ladder, kind of the more important those conversations have to be. So having a good skills basis in your toolbox is always going to be beneficial. So do you think how do you think that sales has kind of helped you progress through the different stages?
Yeah, so I think sales it's really helped me a lot, because I initially was working sort of doing new business development, so it was cold calling, trying to warm up leads, and then once I obviously brought them within my account, I'd account manage. So I think it's helped me a lot, because I know how to talk to people, I know how to build rapport. To be a really good salesman, you need to have a good set of listening ears. So I think personally, you could overcome any sort of issue that a vendor may have if you just listen to their problem, and then you look at it and you analyze it. And I think the greatest salespeople are the ones that can go away and come back with a solution rather than just trying to shoot off the hip. I think, you need to understand the situation, look at every single angle from the deal, and then I think, just go back with 1 or 2 options, and always going with 2 options. I think that's what's helped me with buying property is, I can buy today for X, quick cash offer or using a bridging loan, or I can come back with a slightly higher offer, but it's more creative, like a hybrid offer. That's why that's
Nice. So do you have so your apartment blocks, do you run any of them as serviced accommodation?
I don't know. So there, I probably could do to be fair, but I sort of when I was scaling my property business, especially around the Hull area, in Yorkshire, I was buying typically with a deposit, so I was just saving enough money, or I had the cash there ready to sort of deploy, and I was buying traditionally. I was quite scared of using bridging, but I've recently started to use bridging a lot more just because I understand it. But the reason I was scared of bridging in the first place is when I was looking to scale, I'd spoke to the wrong broker who didn't really understand it. And when I was trying to buy a property, the only way I could have bought it, because all my money was tied up, was using a bridging loan. And the mortgage broker I spoke to said, "Oh, you don't want to do that. It's really expensive, and you need to know what you're doing." And it just put me off. So I lost that deal. But now I'm just looking at deals all the time. I'm just like, yeah, look, a bridge serves a purpose, right? As long as you're getting it below market value and you can move quick, and you're dedicated to the deal, and you've done a lot of due diligence, and not a problem at all. Just use them. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, that's really good. So what's kind of your process for going out and finding properties then? Because I am just kind of, I say I'm at the start of my journey, but I'm like 2 years in. But it seems like a lot of kind of knowledge gathering. This place that I'm in now is my service accommodation that I manage.
Nice.
But we're actually putting it back to like a normal buy to let, just because of the time issue. Like I'm just kind of swamped at the minute. And it's taking a lot of time and not actually providing that much profit. It is profitable, but it's kind of almost at the point now where it's not worth it because the costs are so high. So I'm definitely going to start looking at maybe getting another unit, or maybe going in the HMO route where it's a bit less volatile, like having like guests in and out and wrecking the place. Maybe going for something a little bit more stable and cheaper, and then kind of take off the top when you make your money in like the final room usually, if it's like a 4-bed or 5-bed. But yeah, like so this is my next step now, is I'm going to be like going looking for properties and stuff. So kind of what is your process when it comes to finding properties?
Finding properties, I use software. So I use Property Engine, which is something that I subscribe to. I think I pay about 100 quid a month or whatever it is. And it's a really good tool because it sort of like brings in properties that are off market, that are on market, that are up for sale and rent at the same time simultaneously. And like I say, it's just a really, really good tool. So I use that sort of daily, really, to scour deals. I'm also quite fortunate because obviously with my deal sourcing business, or deal packaging business, as I call it, because I prefer to be called a deal packager. Like I say, I've got some really good contacts, just forged some really good relationships with national agents, fast buying agencies as well. So like, they're the sort of agencies that would go out and be able to buy a property really, really quickly, or put an offer in quickly. And if they're not looking to buy that property because it doesn't meet criteria, then sometimes they'll come to me with that deal. And the beautiful thing about that is obviously that these properties are off market. So, I'm able to then find investors to buy these deals. So that's how I've done it, really. I think, just forge relationships with agencies and just scour the market, just keep looking, be resilient. And if you put an offer forward and it doesn't get accepted, but it's still on the market, then try and go back, find out, what's going on. Has there been any progress? Try to speak to neighbours, go visit the property, just try and get as much information for that property as possible if you think it's a good deal, and then you can obviously go in with a different approach.
Okay, good advice. So actually, what was your very first property deal? How did it first come about? What was the kind of story behind that?
So from a sort of a young lad, really, I always wanted to be, I was always entrepreneurial, always wanted to be a business owner. Loved real estate, buying properties, etc., and loved business. And I was quite fortunate because my dad, he sort of bought a lot of commercial property and residential property. So I'd always been around that. And then I was lucky that when I left school at 16, I was, a barber. And the guy that employed me was a year older than me, and he was sort of buying a lot of properties. And everything he did, I just copied. So he was
Right.
like one of my biggest sort of icons, really, or someone that I could look up to because he was my age. He was pursuing. He was very ambitious. Pursuing success. And because he bought a property at 19, I went out and did the same. And all I did was just save up from the age of 16 and got to 19.
Right.
And I was like, Dad, I've got enough money. Have I got enough money? Every year I'd be like, Dad, have I got enough money? And he was like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. Then I got to like 19 and I had enough. So I bought
Wow.
a property in Bedford for 117K. And that was in 2007. And I sold it for 144. So I made like 27, I think it was 27K profit. And I got sort of 8 years worth of rent, which was 57,000 in rent. But that property is now worth 200K. So really my biggest mistake, early on was that I should have just refinanced properties. But I thought at the time, I'll just sell it and then move my money up north because there's better yielding properties. But, had I have known, I probably would have just refinanced now.
Yeah. I was going to say, what kind of lessons you learned from that from the first property deal, but obviously might be buy and hold rather than
Yeah,
buy and sell, trying to
yeah,
find them
yeah.
properties where you're not going to get things like roof damage or, like really big expenditure, and just kind of good, solid properties which you can just hold on to for like life pretty much.
Exactly that. I was structured slightly different then. So these were properties that were in my personal name. So I had obviously
Yeah.
one in Bedford. Then I bought a second property. I think I was about 24 at the time, and bought that in Bedfordshire as well. But with both of those, I sold them. And don't get me wrong, I had like a nice amount to play with to sort of go up north and then start buying more properties. But you know, like I say, now I probably would have just refinanced, But it's
Yeah.
probably worked out good for me as well because I've now got a group structure. I brought in limited company, and I've kind of, I've just sort of future-proofed really my investments.
Do you think so? That's definitely worth definitely starting out having that limited company if you're going to be buying a property, and sort of it's mostly for tax reasons, isn't it? Like because you
Yeah,
just end up getting screwed if you're in your personal name these days.
yeah. It's for tax reasons, number one, and for two, obviously, I'm quite lucky. I've got a group structure as well, so I can move stuff around. And I just think, if you've got an exit where you want to sell your portfolio one day, it's easier to do it in a limited company, and there's many benefits for the buyer as well. I think, if you're sort of doing it in your own personal name, anyone that wants to buy a portfolio, and you see it all the time now, you see portfolio landlords that have been in it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, let's say, and they're trying to sell these assets off. And for a buyer, because we haven't got multiple dwellings relief anymore, so you don't really have that as a relief option.
Yeah.
You're having to buy all of these assets, all of these properties, and have to pay stamp duty on every single one.
Yeah.
Where if they're held in a limited company, you're just, like I say, you're just buying, you can buy the limited company with all the assets in it.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
the stamp duty is 0.5%.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, so that makes a
Right.
difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. That I was just thinking there, like I ended up. So I was at a property event. The first one I went to was Samuel Lee's event. And like in a break time, they made you do an exercise where you had to go through Gumtree and find landlords and give them a ring. And I've just thought there, the second guy who was on my list, because you had to like make a list of 10 people to ring, and the second guy that I rang was a guy from Peterlee, like not far from here really.
Yeah.
And I've just thought that, like at the time, he never said no. He just said, "Oh, I'm busy on that day. I'm busy on that day," and then I just stopped ringing him after a little while. But I really think I should probably go visit him. This guy I think he had 40 properties across the
Wow.
northeast, and he sounded knackered. He sounded like he just was sick of it all. I think he does all the handiwork himself. He maybe does
Wow.
renovations in the mall and stuff. So I think that's like now I'm just had that little light bulb moment there. I thought, right, okay, maybe I should make contact with him again.
You know how he owns? Do you know how he sort of owns the 40 properties?
I don't, to be honest. I mean, he sounded like an older gentleman, but he sounded like a handyman almost, like a
Right.
like a builder or something like that. But yeah, it's just had a big light bulb moment there.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to kind of get at the bottom of and kind of talk to you about, kind of what I want to ask everybody, because it's something that I'm dealing with. Obviously, we've all got families, we've all got stuff going on in our personal lives, and trying to kind of schedule your time properly to make sure you've got time with your kids, like you're not neglecting your children,
Yeah, of course.
or even your partner. But then again, I've also got that full-time job sat there as well. So kind of the big thing for me is kind of when you get your peaks and troughs, like your highs and lows of like motivation. I think, is it easier once you go full time into it, when you're not kind of thinking about anything else? Is there any kind of things that keep you motivated when you're kind of going through it, or is just like quitting just not an option anymore? It's just like full force in head first.
I think it's a good question. Like, for me, I can't stop. As I've said to you earlier, I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, and yeah, I'm a bit of a one-man band. I've got VAs and stuff working for me, but for me, I'm truly dedicated to this asset class. Being in property full time. What I'd probably say is, I wake up, sometimes at ridiculous hours, and I go to bed really late, and I'm, working quite a lot. I go on holiday. I always bring my laptop with me and try and do a couple of hours in the morning. It is a bit hard. I'm probably working harder than I've probably ever worked. But I just think, for me, it's if I do the sacrifice now and I put in the work and the effort now, and I get it, structured properly, and I've got everything set up, in order, and I'm buying more properties, it'll pay me dividends later on. So that's kind of what I tell the missus, like this time next year, we're going to be millionaires, right? But, and she's sort of, I've got away with it a little bit, but it is difficult. I'm not going to lie. Like, sometimes you do need to just try and have a weekend, like usually weekends, I don't do much work. Like I'll take a phone call if I have to. I'll keep an eye on emails, but I won't be necessarily doing any physical work, especially won't be talking to like investors, clients. I try and do minimal over weekends, but then, Monday to Friday, I'm just savage, just working stupid hours. So I think there is peaks and troughs, but I think if you're fully dedicated to it, I think, you just got to keep sticking it out, because it will pay you dividends in the long term.
Yeah. I think I don't know if I'm trying to do too much, with like the podcast, social media, along with obviously trying to find deals, and investors for that matter. But I kind of think, like in my head, it all kind of lends itself to each other. So it's all like as one, like having the social media presence will help to find investors once it kind of grows a little bit. The podcast, obviously, I'm learning from people who are successful, who are doing it every day. And then like also like the deal sourcing side, or the kind of trying to find deals in the first place. That's just like fun. I just like doing that, I don't think that's the one thing I don't think I've put enough time and effort into, is the thing that I find the most fun, which is looking for the properties. So I do feel like I've got a lot of kind of the change in my own ways, because recently it's just been so busy. Like I think like when the kids were in school, off school in the summer holidays, did you find that you were like caught up a lot doing like looking after the kids, or were you just working all the way through?
I always work. I'm quite fortunate. Like my partner Jodie really understands that, this is what I do, and I can't. I just, the money's good if you sort of focus on what makes money. So like I had a flip a couple of years ago. It was really, really stressful, because I was like, had my letting agency that I'd set up. We did like, rent to rent sort of service accommodation, and we had like initially 6 properties, and we're now down to 4. But that was an idea that my partner really wanted to get into property, and we give it a go, don't get me wrong, but it's been really, really tough, and she's not into it. She sort of like saw it, got into it, and then was like, I don't really like it. And also she was going through pregnancy with our second born, so our youngest. So it was difficult, because I've probably taken on too much. Like, would I do an SA business again? Probably not. Got sucked into the training. I think it's great. I think it's a great strategy, but I think you need to, whatever strategy you do, you need to enjoy it and you need to have fun. And I think, if you're doing too much of everything, you're not focusing on one thing and you're not mastering it. So like for me, I've made more money doing deal sourcing and packaging because that's what I love doing. It's similar to what I did in sales, so I can relate to it. And also, if I haven't got a buyer, I'll buy it myself.
Right.
I'll be
Because
looking.
they're good enough, but if they're good enough for you, then they're going to be good enough for an investor, kind of thing.
Exactly that. And like I even back, I think one thing that gives me the edge over a lot of deal sourcing and packages is that I invest money with the investor. Not all the time.
Right.
Obviously, I haven't got millions in the bank, right? But I've got a small pot that, if I'm able to help an investor, and that can be anything from, like I say, doing a refurb on a property or just helping them with extending a lease or legals or whatever, then for me, that's kind of, what I do. And I think I'm more successful doing deal sourcing because I love it. I love finding deals and I love buying properties as well. So
what's your process? So you use that app, that kind of like finds you a deal. Then do you go along to the property? Do you go view it, or do you use like viewing apps? Or
I never view properties. Really? Yeah, I don't ever leave the office, mate. I'm always stuck in here. But
really,
I don't. Yeah, so I sell deals all over the country. So I bought properties that I've never seen.
Wow.
Literally, I've got some properties that I've owned for like over 2 years and never seen them. And I've sold deals to investors where I've never seen them and they've never seen them. But for me, I do it. We're sort of lucky, really, because with residential property, there's so many ways that you can calculate whether it's a good deal. You can look at sold comparables. You can get a RICS valuation. You've got the likes of Home Track, which obviously provides a report which a lot of lenders will use to do a desktop valuation. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get really sort of like, the black and white really of any deal, and then you can understand exactly whether it's a deal that you can sell or not.
It's amazing.
So yeah, that's what I do. But all the deals that I sell are off market. So even if I'm finding stuff on the open market, I have to get it off market. So that's really my focus, or I'll try and get properties before they go on the open market.
That's insane. So do you kind of, when it comes to like refurbs and stuff, do you have do you know builders in different areas? Is there specific areas that you try and look for, or is there have you got kind of your golden patches, or do you just go anywhere kind of thing?
I have got I've got golden patches. So I've got, I live in Bedfordshire, so I'd invest locally, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire, London, obviously North London, Cambridgeshire as well, Buckinghamshire. And then obviously I've got Hull, which is really where I've been longer established because I've got, quite a nice side portfolio there. So I've got, handy people in these areas, should I say. But I do sell stuff in other areas. Like I sold a deal in Devon not so long ago and was able to, I think I picked up about 4 or 5 different builder quotes, and then we went with the cheapest one. So, I think as long as you can do deals in any area. In my opinion, it just means that you've just got to pick up the phone. You've just got to think out of the box. I use a lot of I use a lot of AI, so ChatGPT now as well. So like when I was buying that deal, or when a client of mine had bought that deal from me in Devon, what I did is I typed in the postcode and I was like, find me, really good builders in this area that have got like good ratings, and it come up with a list, and then I just called them.
Yeah.
So I use like ChatGPT now as my VA, basically as my assistant, and it just does a lot of the hard work for me, and it gets me results quicker. So
crazy.
In my opinion, you can do deals anywhere in the country. You don't have to be based there. So yeah, that's what I do anyway.
So what would be your criteria like when looking for a property? Is it something like a minimal refurb? Do you like going like back to brick, so to speak? Or like, is there something specific that you look for? Is it just that if it works?
I specialize in B&V. That is all I do. I don't.
Right.
I'm not bothered about. So I want people to make money on the acquisition.
Yeah.
That's all I do. So I only look at stuff that is off market in B&V. yes, you can have a different strategy on it. So it could be, would it be good for SA? Well, that's a different conversation. Would it be good for HMO? Different conversation. Could we turn it into 2 flats or into flats? Different conversation. All I'm focused about at the very beginning is the BMV, because you're automatically you're making money from the purchase. Everything you do on the back end, extensions, back to brick, increasing the EPC rating, reconfiguring the floor plan, adding bedrooms, using it as SA, self-contained units, whatever you want to do, that's the cream. That's like where you make your bonus money. But really, any property out there, all I focus on is BMV, because them conversations can be had after.
Yeah. So what's kind of it's a whole new perspective kind of thing. I think when you take training courses and stuff, they're kind of focused on the back end a little bit more, rather than just getting you're making your money at the very, very start. They do mention that, but I think a lot of them maybe sell the idea of running it as a service accommodation or an HMO, rather than thinking, right, okay, you make your money when you buy it, and then anything after that is, as you say, the cream on the top. So yeah, that's really interesting. What kind of, how many on average, how many rejections do you go through? Because if you're trying to get below market value, I would imagine you go through quite a lot of people saying no, that they want more for that.
Look, you do get rejections, obviously, but a rejection's only a rejection at that time. Yeah. Circumstances change, weeks go past, days go past. A vendor then turns around and says, actually, that wasn't such a bad offer.
Right.
And then they might come around to the idea. So don't take no for a no, because sometimes the best yeses come from no's.
Interesting, yeah.
I always think that. So I don't ever think, it's a no, and that's it. Unless they physically tell you to F off, and they're like, right, don't want to talk to you, you're offensive, then okay, right, I've offended the vendor, he doesn't want to talk to me. But, sometimes you put your offer forward, and the way that I do it as well is I always go in with two, almost like two offers. I can buy it for this BMV, or I can buy it for this, but it's creative.
Right.
What do you prefer?
Yeah. So what would be your kind of baseline? What would you want below market value? Is it kind of like, because I've heard kind of 20% is a good overall number to kind of go for. Is that about what you go for?
I'll go for more.
For that. Right, okay.
I'll go in initially 35.
Right.
I'll go in as low as that. Go in low and hard, but I suppose really low and hard means quick.
Yes, cash buy and...
Yeah, cash or bridge. So yeah, it all depends really. Like a BMV is great. Any BMV, like you said, 20%. 20% is great. It all depends on how much money you've got to put into the deal. You're still making money, right? So I've got one property at the moment that's 21% below market value. I'm saving a potential investor 65k from the acquisition. Right. But because it's only 21%, they're going to have to put some skin in the game.
Yeah.
If you're looking around the 35% mark, you can pretty much get it fully funded on a bridge. There's a different, it depends on what I suppose really what budget you got to put in, and how much money you want to leave in a deal, or how much money you want to tie up into a deal initially. Is how I look at it.
That's really cool. So as we spoke earlier, I know that you said you were like super busy and stuff. Have you got any big projects going on at the minute? Any big acquisitions?
Yes, I'm buying another property. So this will be property number 2 this year, and it's a short lease flat. So I sell a lot of short lease flats, obviously, with a couple of clients, and this one was on the market for 79k. I put it through my calculator using Property Engine and put in all the details. There's a tenant in there paying rent at the moment, and it was shocking. It just wasn't working for what it was on the market for. It had been taken off the market, and I just got lucky that I was ringing around for builders at the time in Devon, and the lady that I'd spoke to said, "Do you buy short lease flats?" And I was like, "Yeah, 100%." So she was like, "Look, take my number." And I was like, look, let's talk. Tell me about it now. I need to know about it right now. So while she was on the phone to me, I was like getting all the information, got the address of the property, because that's really the most important part, is just getting the address.
Yeah.
And then obviously working out like how many years are left on the lease, is it, what, how motivated are you, what's the situation? There was a backstory with this one. And I went in from a property being worth sort of on the market for 79k. I had an offer accepted at 45.
Oh, that is insane.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So thank you. Obviously the deal's not done yet, so I can't, celebrate too much, but the offer's been accepted at 45. I've got a net bridging loan at 65k. So it's going to cover me for the full acquisition, and it's also going to cover me for the lease extension and legals and stamp.
Wow.
So basically
Amazing.
It's a no money down deal for me.
Yeah. So that is, it's a bit, that's like mind blowing, really. The fact of like literally none of your own money. And then you're just going to keep that again, like you're going to buy and hold.
I'm looking to refinance. So for me, like I have conversations with people all the time, and like flips, I admire flips. I think flips are brilliant. I think flips are really good if you've got money and you've got money to tie up into a project and it's your own money. I think if you're bridging, it scares me. That's just me being really honest, because you've only got, the clock starts ticking. You've only really got 12 months and you really want to be off by month 9. So, really you need to be having conversations around month 6, 7 and having offers on the table for you to be able to sort of get out okay. So for me, I just think refinance, get on a bridge and refinance and put it onto a buy-to-let product.
Yeah.
So
it makes total sense.
It's a safer option because you've got more control. You don't have any control when you flip a property because it's like SA. When I've sold SA, rent to SA deals, and that was in my early days of deal packaging. Like people will go, "What's the occupancy rate?" And you go, "I can get you the occupancy rate, but I can't guarantee it. Can't guarantee you're going to make this money." You could put it on, put it on the settle an OTA, and it's not doing anything. Or you could put it on an OTA, and all of a sudden you're getting stupid bookings, and you're making, thousands. So I think it's the same with a flip. You don't have any control. You can only have an optimistic mindset, which I'm very optimistic, but I think now if there's enough meat in it, just refinance, keep it.
Yeah. Optimistic, but realistic.
And I think just play it safe because you don't want to be in a position where there's not enough meat in it to refinance. So a lot of people, they'll buy a deal, they won't get it super below market value, but they'll still look to buy it. And then, they really, like I say, their main option is to flip it. Where with me, I always look at it to keep. And that's why the numbers have got to be right for me.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, cool. So moving forward, have you got any, like, kind of what would be your plans for the future? Kind of you're working towards that goal of getting to a point where you don't have to be in the office all the time. You can just kind of remove yourself a little bit from the business because it's just generating money itself. So what are you going for? More blocks, do you think? Do you think more just kind of expanding the portfolio, just like kind of year by year?
Yeah, I think that's it really. So buy more property. Blocks, in my opinion, are probably the best. That's the best strategy, and I'd buy more. Like if I had, extra capital and I could just, go out and hunt for blocks, I'd be doing it because for me, you get like a HMO type of return, but you're not paying no bills.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah.
So you're renting out, for example, you'll have a block of, let's say you got a block of three, a block that's got 3 flats in it. You're getting 3 lots of rent, but my ones are unsplit. So my freehold blocks are all unsplit. So I only have 1 mortgage, but I've got 3 lots of rent. One mortgage, but 7 lots of rent. 1 mortgage, 4 or 5 lots of rent. So for me, that's the safest route, and it's quite a good. The profits are good.
Yeah,
because you're not
almost
paying,
like
the only sort of expenditure I've got is cleaning. So I get all of my communal areas cleaned, maintenance obviously, and bills. Only in the communal areas. That'd be like, electric bills in the communal areas and insurance, obviously. So it's quite good where with a HMO, for example, you'd be paying a lot more because you'd be doing gas, electric, internet, so much more with it. Cleaning.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit scary. So I've actually got a deal that I'm kind of working on at the minute. I just need to get more quotes. I've had a couple of quotes, but just kind of really, I had a surveyor come out. He's kind of looked at it and he's seen that there's a lot more work needing doing than what I originally thought, than the original builders thought. So yeah, I mean, it's and it's basically it's a house with another house attached to the side of it.
Nice.
But it's just the brickwork on the second house, and a lot of it needs redoing, and it just seems like an absolute mountain ahead of us. Like it is my first deal. I think I've really bitten off quite a lot. And yeah, I don't know if there's any advice or I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm trying to ask, to be honest. But yeah, I'm kind of like I'm so far into it. Like I've put quite a lot of time in. It's been since like maybe February. I've been trying to get things going with it. But the person who owns it doesn't live there, so I've got to like work it around my schedule, her schedule. It's just been a bit of a chew on, but good experience I've like kind of gained along the way. But yeah, do you think it's worth? I don't really know what I'm trying to ask. Do you think it's? I like just listening to your story. I feel like I should be doing what you're doing, kind of just like looking for these less work needing doing on it. Something where you can kind of sell the deal, package it up, and sell it on within a matter of weeks potentially, rather than these things that are taking like literally months to go through.
I think I think I kind of understand what you've asked, right? So I was having a chat with a friend of mine yesterday who's wanting to get he's in property. He's invested in a lot of training and he was doing a lot of property before and then sort of come out of it and went into different asset class. And basically what's happened with him is he's now looking to like basically like you, he's super hungry, he wants to get deals, under his belt, but he's looking at stuff. I always say just go with simple, like doing below market value, property. That's just easy. Do you know what I'm saying? You look at property, you can see comparables, what it's worth because you can look at sold comparables in the area. You've got like the likes of Home Track as well, which is obviously great because that will, it will tell you what, a lender would look at it at, obviously if they were going to lend on a desktop valuation. Obviously you can get rig surveyors out and, people can come out and value it as well. But I just think go with Resi and just go BMV. It is super simple and it's just idiot proof. Like it's there. Do you know what I'm saying? Things do get down valued. Obviously you can't control, someone doing a risk valuation and down valuing, but if you're getting it discounted, even with a down valuation, there's margin to play with. So I think for me, like I would just say to you, word of advice is just keep it simple, because simple wins. Simple always wins. I've got deals that I've had, and I've had some really, really complex deals like land with planning, hotels, golf courses that have been up for sale, and I was direct to vendor on them. I'm not like, I'm not sort of like in a chain of sources where you look like the human centipede. Everyone's attached to each other. I'm direct to a vendor with, assets like that, so big ticket stuff, and they're just difficult to sell. Some of these have been sat on my board, so they've sat there for like a year and a year. You get offers, you get things that happen, but it's slow, subject to planning, conditional offers, all of this stuff, and it's just like, if I had to feed my family off one of them deals, we wouldn't vet, we would have starved already. So for me, it's just like, keep it easy, keep it simple, below market value, it always wins. I'm set. Can I ask some questions about it? Yeah, I was going to say, can I ask some questions about it? Because if there's an angle that I can see that maybe you haven't seen on it, or if there's something that I'd be looking at doing. So it's a house, HMO, right? So 3-bed terrace, and it's been part built, but hasn't been built. Okay, right. Oh, it doesn't have it doesn't have a roof. Wow. Okay, so interestingly, is it on one title deed or is it on two? Some one title deed. Okay, that's good. So you've got an opportunity there. So you could add some value by splitting titles, right? Because you could basically separate and turn it into two different dwellings, or keep it on one. It depends. What's your exit on it? Refinance. Okay, so you've got two options. You could rather split the titles and refinance and get more money because you've now split titles. So you've got house one and house two, right? It's a bit like one that I've got in Hull. So I've got two neighbouring properties on one title deed. There's 7 flats in total, but you've got 4 flats in one, 3 flats in the other. But because it's on one title deed, had I have known this, I would have probably bought with a bridge at the time because I didn't have enough to buy it for cash, and I would have tried to get it split. I would have tried to split the titles or tried to raise, private finance, whatever, split the titles, and then I would have refinanced both because then you're making more money. Where if you just refinance it on one title deed, you're only going to get X. So, it'd be worth more if you split the titles. Secondly, does the vendor, is it in her personal name or does she own it in a company? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And are they able to sell it now? Has it gone? So it's sellable now. And have you given her a price on what you're going to buy it for? Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm just thinking you could probably, I think if you just went in low and hard, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'd be more than happy to look at it, like obviously to support you with that process. But I'd probably say it's probably unfair for any of the listeners if we just talk about this deal, right? So maybe we can talk about it after, and yeah, like I say, I'll be more than happy to give you a list of questions that you could ask her, and then it might just start to give you a bit more clarity, really, of how you can move forward. That's all right. Yeah, yeah. No, I've been more than happy. Like I say, I'm more than happy to help people, and similar to a guy that called me yesterday, he was telling me about, showing me deals and, places that he's viewed and sending me videos. And I'm always happy to like jump in and give, just a quick opinion. And I also support people. I do mentor as well. So, anyone that's looking, I try and do mentorship at an affordable price. But, with that, the way that I do my mentorship is I give people tasks that they can walk away. So we'll do like an hour strategy call, talk about their situation, their deals, what they're up to, and then I send them, basically I give them minutes of exactly what we've discussed to, extreme detail, and then I give them a load of tasks that they need to go out and do, and then they can have another conversation with me once they've done those. So it's more results driven rather than just, yeah, this is it, verbal, and then you walk away and you're like, what did John say? So for me, it's about actually documenting it and documenting the journey so you actually get results. Yeah. That's right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you anyway. Have a good day. Yes. Thank you. Bye bye. Okay. Bye.